All right, Masechet Eruvin, Daf Ayin Chet. We have a series of cases where you have a wall between two courtyards. We're not going to see anything very complicated, but just a lot of different variations of these cases where you have two courtyards with a wall in the middle. And so if it's a solid wall, 10 tefachim high, then you have to treat it like two separate courtyards, and each one will need to make an eruv on their own. However, if there is an opening or some kind of access from one to the other, then you can treat them as one and make an eruv all together. If there is a wall there and an opening, you can choose to treat it as two or together as one. If there's no wall there, it has to be one. All right, so we saw cases if we have a window or an actual opening, but today we're going to be dealing mostly with ladders so that you can easily get over the wall. And so even though the wall is there, it's still considered as if it's an opening. All right, so let's see the different various cases. We have lots of pictures to help us along the way. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Abba bar Abu Ziz שהיוצא מן הכותל ארבעה על ארבעה והניח עליו סולם כלשהו מעטו ולא עמדן אלא דעוטבה עלה אבל עוטבה בהדה arvoche arvache. So if we have some kind of projection, like a shelf that comes out of the wall, if it's 4x4, so that's the general rule that has to be 4x4 is a comfortable step that you can climb on. And you have a ladder against it, then that's fine. But that's only if the ladder is resting on it, not if the ladder is off to the side. And so this is the point here. This appears the picture. We have a platform here. The platform's a bit high up, so you need a stool to get up there. So even though the ladder doesn't go all the way up, I mean, if you had a ladder by itself that was 4 wide and went all the way up, that would be okay. But this is a kind of combination of ladder plus high shelf. That's okay. But this is not okay. If you had it here and then you have to, jump over to onto the shelf here, that's not easy enough to go on, to go up. So then that would not be considered an opening.
Sorry, even if between that ladder on the left and the platform on the right, less than 4 tefachim, you say usually it was a lavud, it would be nothing. So
good, less than 3 tefachim, wood is generally nothing. And we did see, you're right, with the 2 ladders on each side, then that would be okay. And so I think I would agree with you that if it's that close, less than 3 tefachim, then it's considered adjacent to it. But here it does say de'otve aleh, that's placed on it. So it's a bit ambiguous. So I'm not sure if it has to be. Maybe it's just too hard to step sideways in that way. But if it's right on it, okay, that's a good question. I think it's not clear. So next case, Amar Nachman bar Amar Abba bar Abu Kotel Tisha Asar Sarich Ziz Ehad Lahatiro. If the Kotel Esrim Sarich Shte Zizim Lahatiro. If the wall is 19 tefachim high, then you only need one projection because that one will be in the middle and it will reduce it to under 10. Whereas if it's 20, then you need 2 of them. In other words, we have a picture as follows. So if you have a ladder and this is a little bit less than 10, if the whole thing is 19, and so you put this like at 9.5 and this at 9.5, then you're okay. So you can reduce it that way. But if you have, if it's 20 tall, then you're going to need 2 platforms with stairs in the middle in order to get up there comfortably. Good. And this only works if you put them not under each other, so that you can go here and then you can turn and go up the other way. If this was directly on top, then it would kind of be impossible to put a ladder, from here up to there. So you need that. You need it to be shifted over. Amar Rav Huna, Amud b'reshut harabim gavoa 10 v'rachab 4. In general, something that's 4x4 in its width and 10 tefachim high is considered its own domain, reshut hayachid. However, if it's exactly 4x4 and you put a stake, a nail on top of it, then that nail is going to reduce it because it's not a flat surface. It's not usable in that way. So then that would be a problem. So make sure it's nice and flat. That stake that you put in it is only a problem if it's 3 tefachim high. But if it's less than that, then it's okay. 3 tefachim high really makes it very awkward to use. But less than that, it just combines with the flat surface. That's Rav Ada. Even if it's less than 3, even a short nail that's in there is a problem because it's not a flat surface and difficult to use. Because you can't use it that way. Rav Ashe Amar, afilu she'gavoa shelosha, my tama, efshad detale be midi. Rav Ashe says even if it's a tall stake sticking out, that's still okay. It's still considered a domain. And why? Because you can hang something on it. You can hang your jacket on it, right? As soon as only one, let's say only one of these sticking out, you can put something here, you can hang something there, and that's fine. So that we have all 3 different possibilities here. So now, jumping off of that, what if you have another case? You have a bunch of these nails sticking out from on top. How about then? According to Rav Ashe, according to the other ones, presumably this would be a problem. But Rav Ashe was the most lenient here, and he said even something sticking out 3 tefachim up, one of them is okay. How about many? Right? How many? Had Amar Rabbi Yochanan bor v'cholyata mistaref la'asara ve'amai. So he answered him by comparing it to another case. If you have a hole in the ground, and you put the, as you're digging the hole, you put the extra dirt around it. So now you have a hole. Let's say it's, in order for the hole to be its own domain, has to be 10 tefachim deep and 4 tefachim wide. And so here, this Rabbi Yochanan says that it does not need to be 10 deep by itself below ground. You can include the little mound on top of it. So if the hole is 6 tefachim deep and the mound is 4 high, then that all together is 10, and that's fine. And how about width? Well, let's say the width of this is 3 tefachim, and the mound is another tefach, right? Or half a tefach here and half a tefach here. Then it all combines and to create a 4x10. So even though the hole itself underground is much smaller, and the space here is smaller, we can include the mound. So how's that relevant to this? You can't use it, right? You're going to put something put a pot or something in that hole. You can't put it in if it's something that is 4 tefachim wide because it's shorter. So what's the point of why would you include the mound in the width of the space? In the case of this, the point is you could put something on top of it, and this could hold a board that would be 4x4. It could hold a tray, so it is useful as a 4x4 width. So too, in this case, although it's hard to put something down all the way down here, but I could put something that would rest on all of these, a pillow, I don't know what, and that would be okay. So therefore, since I can put something on top of them, so it's fine. So Rav Asher would permit even in this case. Good. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shemuel. Kotel asara sarich sulam 14 lahatiro. Rav Yosef Amar afilu shelosha asar umashehu. Now, if you want to use a ladder, the question is how big does the ladder have to be? Really, it's a question of what the angle is going to be. So if the wall is 10 tefachim high, then I need a ladder that's going to be 4 tefachim long. So 14, sorry. So if you do the calculation, right, 10 squared plus 10 squared is 200. Square root of 200 is 196. Sorry, square root of 14 squared is 196, but okay, almost 200. So the hypotenuse of this square would be 14. So that gives us a 45-degree angle. His point is that when you have the ladder must need to be long enough that you could put it on a 45-degree angle, and that way climb up. This wouldn't be a typical ladder, but rather more like a staircase, right? That the staircase would be that kind of slope. It would be difficult to climb a ladder that was so slanted. Okay, so more like a staircase, and that's what you would need. That's the first opinion, and the second opinion, Said of Yosef says even 13 and a little bit is enough. Well, a 13 hypotenuse is calculates to about 9. So the point is, if it's 9, then, well, you only have one more tefach to go up, even less than that. So that's considered basically till the top, right? You climb up here, and it's very simple to just hop up to the top of the wall, so you don't need to get to the top, even within one tefach. And then even 11 and a little bit is enough, because here this is still within 3 tefachim of the top. And so, as you said before, less than 3 tefachim, we don't consider that anything. So that's easy enough to jump up. And so this is a nice, comfortable slant, and that's just fine. You can go up there. And there's finally one last opinion. Rav Huna bered Rav Yoshua amar afilu shiv'a u'mashehu. Even 5 and even 7 and a little bit. Now, what does he mean by 7? Right? 7 times 7 is 49. So that would give you, half of that is 25. So square root of 5, if that would be 5. So that would give you a ladder. If you made the same as these, that would go from 5 till 5 high. Which would that be enough? And then you have to climb all the way up here. From the series, it would look like that. Rashi doesn't think so. Rashi gives a completely different interpretation, which is found in this picture. He considers 14 to be the 14 feet going 10 here plus 4. He assumes that whenever you have a ladder, which looks more like our kinds of ladders, you want to put it 4 away from the wall, no matter how tall it is. And so 14, that would get you to the top. 13, counting here 4 and only 9, would get you 1 from the top. And 11, still have 4 here, and there's only 7 to the top. So you end up getting to a similar thing, just with a different calculation of what this 11 is. Not the 11 according to Rashi, is not the length of the wall, but rather the side plus the side. And so therefore, in that calculation, 7 would be a ladder that's straight up, that has nothing. So according to the last opinion of Yoshua, that's also okay, even though this is more difficult to climb. And so you have to get up here straight up, and you have to then reach up here. He says that is still okay. So anyway, that's Rashi's interpretation, but the other picture here follows Tosafot's interpretation. Okay, so that's the different ladders. Now we ask, Amarav Sulam Zakuf Mema'et, a straight ladder that's completely vertical, has no slant at all. See that she's connecting this statement of Rav to the last one with 7. So that's could make some sense there. Rav says this is a tradition that it's okay, but I don't know the reason. So Rav said this. And so Shemuel says Abba. That's Rav's actual name. He's Rav Abba. He says Abba does not know the reason for this. We saw yesterday that if you have a platform and another platform stuck into the wall, then that's okay. That's like a vertical ladder. So therefore, this should be the same thing. Okay, I mean, it is a bit different because a platform is itself 4x4. It's a nice big step to go on. This ladder is not so big. I mean, this seems to be the difference, that a ladder, you need a whole ladder to make it easy to walk up, whereas steps, you don't. But anyway, according to this opinion, it's enough to have a ladder, even though it's vertical. Amar Abba, Amar Bichia, דקלים שבבבל אינן צריכין כבה. מה טעמה? כבדתן כבעתן. If you have a tree stump and you put it next to the wall, even though you don't nail it down permanently, it's still considered a permanent structure because it's so heavy. And so therefore, that is enough to make the wall shorter, or rather that you can get over the wall more easily, and therefore it is like an opening to the other side, and you can make one eruv. That's Rabbah. The Amar Rav Yosef Amar Rabbi Yoshaya Sulamot shebebavel enan tzrichin keva my tama kebedan kobatan. He says that it's the ladders in Bavel are made out of wood, and they're so heavy that you just put them there and they're considered permanent even if you don't nail them in. Okay, so that's two different opinions. We compare them. Mandamar sulamot kol sheken dekalim. Mandamar dekalim abal sulamot lo. The one who taught that these ladders from Bavel are so heavy that they don't need to be nailed in. All the more so the tree stumps, which are even heavier. This is an actual kavachomer about something being light and heavier. But the one who says that it's for trees, for tree stumps, would say it has to be that heavy, but a ladder would not be heavy enough. Good. Be'al mine Rav Yosef merabba sulam mikan v'sulam mikan v'kashin ba'emsa mahu. So we have like this. You make a ladder with a small ladder. Remember, the ladder itself has to be 4 tefachim across. This one is not. This one you have one ladder that's small, connected to another ladder with soft material, kind of a rope-like material in between. So altogether it's 4. What about that? Would this be considered a ladder if you put it up the wall? That this would be considered 4 tefachim and therefore be considered an opening? No, because the sole of the foot doesn't go on it. Whenever you're climbing a ladder, you like to put your foot in the middle, and you can't put your foot on the soft part. So this is no good. It's not usable. Well, how about the other way? Kashin mikan v'kashin mikan v'sulam ba'emsa mahu amale hare kaf haregel ola bahen. If it's more like this, or a better picture is here. If you have the soft part in the middle, this is no good, very hard to climb. But if the hard part, the ladder itself is in the middle, and so that's easy. You put your foot and you climb up the middle, and then the longer part would be useful. You could put your hands there as you're climbing up. That's enough for that, and that extends it to be 4 tefachim wide, and this is permitted, which is interesting because even though this has a more solid structure, it's just in the wrong place. So this is okay, and this one is not okay. Good. Amud bet. Chakak le'ashlim bakotel bekama amale ba'asara. If you did have a ladder, but the ladder is too skinny, and so you want to dig into the wall in order to make them wider. So kind of like this, you have a skinny ladder by itself is too skinny, but we'll dig holes in the wall, and so the step of the ladder together with the 4 tefach wide hole will make it better, will make it more easy, more comfortable. How high do I need to do this? The answer is 10 tefachim. So I guess that's ideas that if I have nice 10 tefachim that's easy to climb, then the rest of it just to get to the top, even though it's more difficult, I don't need so much help to get to the top of it. So those two things combined are enough. What if I have no ladder at all? I only have indentations, just a ladder made out of indentations. Then you have to go all the way up 4 tefachim wide. Now, what's the difference? This is there where the ladder is there, and it's that is easy to climb. Salak, right? Like salka de'atech amina means to rise up. So there, it's easy to climb. But when there's no ladder at all, these indentations are more difficult to climb than a ladder. And so therefore, in that case, I would need it to go all the way up with the four tefach. So it's a kind of combination, one or the other. So you need, a nice thing on the bottom. The top one could be less, can be just a ladder, but it can't just be thin and only indentations. Good. Ba'amine Rav Yosef Merabba Asaola Eilan Sulam Mahu. Okay, it's an interesting case. I have a tree connected to the ground, and I make the tree into a ladder. Right, I dig some notches in it, some grooves, and I'm able to climb up the tree and get over to get to the top of the wall. The problem is that I'm not allowed to use a tree on Shabbat. Right, this is a law of Shavut. You're not allowed to climb a tree, according to the Bavli, because if you climb it, you might go and pull down fruit. Or according to the Tannaitic sources, Yerushalmi, because it's a lot of work to climb a tree. It's not restful. Either way, point is that Shavut, I'm not allowed to climb a tree. So do I consider, even though I'm not allowed to climb the tree, the fact that the tree is there and is climbable because I made a ladder out of it. So is that considered as if it is an opening? Or because it's halachically not, it's physically usable, but halachically not usable. Okay, so that's going to be their question, and we're going to ask it according to two different opinions. Tiba'e le-Rabbi, tiba'e le-Rabbanan. If you remember way back, we saw machloket. Rabbi says that something that is that an eruv, right? This is eruv techumin. If I want to put my eruv techumin, I have to put it somewhere that's accessible. Can I put it in a tree? The B, that's the Yehuda Nasi says yes, because eruv only has to exist during Ben Hashemashot, and during Ben Hashemashot, any shavut is allowed. Right? Remember that. Right before it gets completely dark, if I need to do something that's midrabanan, I'm still allowed to do it. So therefore, this bread that I put in the tree, I can access according to the B during Ben Hashemashot, and then after that, even though I can't access it, who cares? So we're asking according to him. Well, Tibai the B ad kan la kama Rabbi hatam kol davar shehu mishum shivut lo gazru alav hanemile ben hashemashot aval kule yoma la. So we're wondering, would he say just like over there, using a tree is permitted, so to here, using a tree for this eruv, for this is not an eruv yet. We want to make an eruv. Using a tree as a ladder on Shabbat to make an opening, was that also be permitted, or was he only lenient there because I only needed to be ben hashemashot? That's why in eruv techumin, that's fine. But here I need an opening. I need the wall to be, I need the other side to be accessible, and it has to be accessible the whole Shabbat. And so therefore it's not good enough that I can climb this tree during Ben Hashemashot. So this case, he would be machmir, even though he's mekel in the case of eruv techumin. So even though, so that's one side, according to the B, who's mekel in other cases to use a tree where he still might be machmir here. How about the other side? We can also ask both ways. Oh, Rabbanan pitchahu v'adyahu derebiya ale. Rabbanan over there said that you cannot use something that even during Ben Hashemashot you're not allowed to use do a shavut. And so according to them, eruv techomin that I put in a tree is no good, even though because Ben Hashemashot I can't use it. So the machmir in that case. But even they might be more lenient in this case because physically I have an opening, right? I can climb up the tree and go to the other side. How only halachically I can't. So it's more similar to if I had an opening, but there's a lion on the other side. So no one in their right mind is going to pass through because the lion will eat them. But technically, right, structurally, it is in fact an opening. So therefore, it would be in that case, you would be permitted to join the two courtyards and then eruv, even though there's a lion and no one's actually going to go to the other side. And so to here, the lion is equivalent to the halachic prohibition of using a tree. So we follow the physical thing and not the tree. Okay, so we asked that question both according to the B and according to the Banan. We're not going to answer it yet. Rather, we're going to add another question. Asa'ol ashera sulam mahu. What if I take a ladder and it's made out of asherah wood? Rashi here implies that it's a tree that's in the ground and also an asherah tree, but it's probably a separate argument, as we'll see in a second. So in asherah, an Asherah ladder. Now, the thing with Asherah is because it's idolatry, I cannot get any benefit from it. No hana'ah. Not allowed to use it. So I'm also not allowed to use. And so in this case, we'll also ask according to two different opinions. Mahu, tiba l'rabi, tiba l'rabanan. This was a machloket. The machloket before was on daf 32. I think this was on 31. And so these are both machlokets we saw before. According to the Biyudah, my eruv techumin, right? If I want to walk another 2,000 amot, I'm allowed to put it on a grave. That's what the Biyudah said. He was permissive. Why? Even though a grave, you're not supposed to get benefit from it. But in this, he says that no one cares about their bread. As you just want to be there for a few minutes, and then you don't care if someone takes it. So therefore, I'm not getting any benefit from it being protected by the grave. Let's say it's like inside a mausoleum or something, right? And so I don't care about it, and therefore I'm not getting any benefit from it. So that's the Biyudah. So he's lenient regarding an eruv techomin that's in a place where you cannot get hana'ah. Would he agree the same thing here and also be lenient with this Asherah tree? Well, let's see. Tiba Rabbi Yehuda. Ad kan la kama Rabbi Yehuda hatam de mutar liknot bait bisure hana'ah. Ela hatam de batar de kana le'aruv la nicha le de lintar. This is maybe he's only he gives permission there because I don't care about the eruv techumin, and so there I don't need it to be guarded. But in this case, I need to be able to climb over the wall all day on Shabbat, and so I am getting benefit from it. So even though he's lenient there, he would prohibit in this case, or maybe he would be lenient in both cases. Or Dilma, or the other side of it, Ayafilu the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan are the one that say you cannot use the grave because people do want it to be guarded, and so by putting it near the grave, it is being guarded, and you're violating getting benefit from the grave. But in this case, that doesn't matter. Even though I'm not halachically allowed to go up the ladder, physically there is a ladder there. There is an opening there. And so once again, I can separate the physical reality from the halachic reality. The halachic reality is compared to a lion. If there's a passageway, even though there's a lion on the other side, doesn't matter. It's still considered an opening, even though I'm not really going to go in there. And so too, having an Asherah ladder, this other halacha from somewhere else does not prevent it from being defined as an opening for the purposes of joining these two courtyards. All right, those are all our questions.
Rabbi,
Answer. Yeah.
do we compare this Asherah case to other cases where we bring up Asherah, like with lulav, the lulav from an Asherah tree, where over there if I recall correctly, they say the lulav doesn't have shiur if it's from an Asherah tree.
Right. Good. And that's it. You cannot use it. But there you can't fulfill the lulav by it just being there. You have to shake it. You have to do something with it. In this case, you're just defining the architecture. And I don't have to go there, right? I mean, if I have a nice opening and I don't go through it on Shabbat, doesn't matter, right? It could be, I just didn't feel like going there. So I don't have to go there.
I might say that if in that case, if we said the lulav doesn't have the shiur because it came from a Asherah tree, then we might say that the ladder doesn't have the shiur.
Doesn't exist. Right. So that would be the other side. I mean, we're asking about it. This is,
yeah.
That definitely could be the logic on the other side of it. So Amaleh, his answer is pretty short, even though we had a lot of different reasonings in the question. Ilan mutar Asherah asura. The first case of the tree, and in some sense, it's only a shavut climbing up the tree. Asherah would be asur d'oraita. Is hana'ah, isur hana'ah, asur d'oraita? I don't know. I'm not sure. But in any case, he says that Asherah is a problem. Now, Matkif la Rab Chisda says should be the opposite. Adrabah. Ilan she'isur Shabbat gorem lo nitsar. Asherah she'isur dabar acher gorem lo la nitsar. You should be more machmir regarding the tree because there it's an Isur Shabbat. I'm not allowed to climb the tree because of Shabbat. And therefore, it's a law that's directly related to the laws of Shabbat, and so that should tell me that I cannot define it as an opening for Shabbat. Whereas Asherah is a different halacha, it's a different section of Shulchan Aruch, and so different section of Rambam anyway, and so it's Shulchan Aruch also different section. So that's then I consider it like a lion. It's a different thing. I don't have to worry about the laws of idolatry when I'm dealing with the laws of Shabbat, and so therefore I could say it is considered an opening, even though I would violate if I actually used it. It's more logic to say that that's okay. Amar Rabbi Abahu, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So anyway, two traditions from Eretz Yisrael. Kol she'isur Shabbat garam lo asur. Kol she'isur davar acher garam lo mutar. And so we had from Bavel, also from Eretz Yisrael, the same logic that the definition is only a problem if it's a Hilchot Shabbat problem. Then it's if you can't use it because of Hilchot Shabbat, then it's not usable and it's not defined as an opening. Whereas idolatry would be like a lion. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak matneh hachi ilan pelukta d'Rabbi v'Rabbanan Asherah pelukta d'Rabbi Yehuda v'Rabbanan. Rav Nachman resolves it in a different way, that we leave it as a machloket. In other words, this logic that we said, or even Rabbi who's machmir, he can be mekel. Even the Rabbanan who are usually mekel, they can be machmir. That's fancy footwork, but we're just going to follow the simple thing that Rabbi and Rabbi Yehuda are the ones that are lenient. So they would say also regarding the tree and the ladder, Asherah ladder, they would be lenient, and Rabbanan would prohibit in both. So whatever you decide the halacha is like, according to if the halacha is like Rabbi, then you'd be lenient here too. Usually we follow Rabbanan, but actually in the case of Ben Hashemashot, I do believe that we follow Rabbi. So that case would be lenient, which is actually ends up being the same as the first opinion here. All right, and now next Mishnah. Haris sheben shete hasedot amok asara verocha barba'a me'arvin shenayim ve'en me'arevin ehad. If we have a ditch between two, yesterday we saw a ditch, but they were on different levels. But now we're not talking about different levels, but all the same. It's just a ditch between two. So even though it's not a wall, it goes down. That's like a wall, and so this is this makes it two courtyards, and I cannot make an eruv across both. However, there are different ways to fix it. Afilu male kash or teben. If I put straw or hay inside the ditch, not good enough. Straw and hay is not considered something that fills it. We'll see. The Gemara will say why. I was thinking maybe it's just too soft, but imagine if you pack it tight enough, it would be hard enough. So we'll see that in the Gemara. Will ask why. But maleh afar o sedorot me'arvin echad ve'en me'arevin shenaim. If you filled it with dirt or pebbles, then that becomes all one. Then it's all flat surface. Then it's all one courtyard, and therefore you have to make one eruv, and you cannot make two eruvin because there's no wall here at all. This is not like a wall with an opening. This is no wall. Tana lav neses sherachav arba'at tefachim. וכן שתי גזוז תראות, או זו כנגד זו, מערבין שניים ואם רסו מערבין אחד, פחות מכאן, מערבין שניים ואין מערבין אחד. But if I put a board, as long as the board is 4 wide, so 4 wide is considered an opening. This is the same as having a wall through most of it and an opening. When you have a wall and an opening that's 4 tefachim, between 4 tefachim and 10 amot, then I have a choice. I can consider it as being all one because I have this opening that joins them, or if I don't want to, I can consider it as 2 because I do have this wall. So same halacha would be in this type of case where I have 2 homes, and so the 2 homes are separate. Right? There's a street in between them. However, if I have an opening on my balcony and I put a board there, you might want to put railing. Then that's a skywalk. Then that's okay because it's an opening and I can walk. That can join them, and therefore I can make an eruv by myself, or I can make an eruv with both of them. This could be across the street, or maybe on the same side of the street. That doesn't matter. However, if it's thinner, if it's just a very thin board, then that's not considered an opening, and then it's considered two separate domains, and I have to make two separate eruvin. Good. We'll just do the beginning of the Gemara. Veteven la chayitz. What's wrong with hay? Vehaten anantenan. The next Mishnah is going to teach us that mataben sheben sheteh chaserot gabo asarat tevachim malvin shenayim ve'en malvin echad. If I have a pile of hay between two courtyards, it's considered like a wall. So hay can be a wall. Why not hay underground? If regarding a wall, a partition, everyone agrees hay can be, even though the problem with hay is that it's kind of temporary. It's there now, but I'm going to use it eventually. And so a temporary partition is okay. We saw all the way back in the beginning with the Masechet, then you have a caravan and you can take the saddles and the animals and put them around and they can be an enclosure. So an enclosure can be a temporary one. That's fine. אבל לעניין חציצה, היא בטלה חייס, אילה בטלה לה חייס. But regarding filling a ditch, and so now you want it to be, like sealed, like one piece of ground. In that case, you have to fill it with something that is going to stay there. So if I nullify it and I say, I'm not going to use this, and I have no intention to use this hay, I'm going to leave it in there all permanently, then that's fine. Then you could put the hay in there. But since most of the time you intend to use the hay, it's not considered filler material, and that's why even if you fill it with hay, it's still considered, the ditch is still considered a wall and separates the two domains. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen ve'amen.